Hey everyone, it's Dominic the Primetime Treasure Hunter. Thanks for coming by to check out another video. I am super excited, super pumped up. I just did a great interview about comic books at the Jason T. Smith YouTube channel. So if you did not get a chance to check that out, just go down below in the description section. You'll see a link to it. One of the things that Jason asked me, and a lot of you have been asking me, is for part 2 of my comic book haul video. I did part 1 the other day, but unfortunately I had to go out of town for a few days, and so I've been waiting to get back to do part 2. So we're gonna go upstairs in the comic book sorting area and do that in just a few moments. Just as a little update, if you saw that first part, one of the things I was looking for when I saw we had a bunch of Marvel Age is I was looking for Marvel Age 41. And you remember that one point where Mrs. Primetime found it. I was super excited that it was actually in there. And that's because it has Stan Lee on the cover. Stan Lee just passing away recently made that book go up in value. Now, I just sold it. It's the only book from the collection that I listed, but I just sold it for $45. So remember, I got these books for 12.5 cents approximately a piece. So $125 for over 1,000 comic books. So that gets me about a third back of my investment. Now, of course, there's shipping and those, fees are associated with it. So it's not quite exactly a third, but it's pretty close to it. And that's what you want to do when you buy these collections. You want to be able to source them low so you could get your money back real quick after selling 1, 2, 3, or maybe a small bundle of books. And then the rest of it is all profit. So that's how you do it. Now, that particular book has sold for as much as $80 in the condition I had it in, which was near mint condition. But you can't just judge your prices off of what someone sold it for in the past 60 days. You also have to look at your current competition. And I had someone who was an excellent seller, 100% feedback, had the book in near mint condition and was selling it for a little bit over $50, like $52, $53. So I priced it to beat him at $49.99, which I could afford to do when I'm buying the books at 12.5 cents a piece. So someone offered me $40, and so we met in the middle, $44.99, and I'm perfectly fine, perfectly happy with that. So we're going to go and right now go check out, do part 2, see if there's anything there. Mrs. Primetime will be by my side. That's my wife. For those of you who don't know, she does not go on video, but she will be there. She will remain mysterious, but she will be there by my side helping me sort the books. So let's go check out and find some more. Okay, so we are back for part 2. Now, just to orient you, these books over here have all been alphabetized, but I have not really looked through them yet. That's all been done by Mrs. Primetime. This right here in this blue bin, we haven't gone through any of this yet. So we're gonna focus on this tonight. And then I've got another one of these boxes all set. And this right here, these are all ones that I've put in and have sorted. So we've got a lot to do. Daisy's here, she's gonna help out. Hey, Daisy, Daisy. Daisy, you want to read one of those comic books? All right, so Daisy's going to help out as well. And that's about it. So let's get started. Okay, now one of the things I would suggest when you're working with 2 boxes like this is to just take about half of them. So like we'll start at like the letter N maybe. So these Nam comic books, which are all about Vietnam. So we'll start there, and I'm gonna take those and I'm gonna move those all over here into this box, right like that, so that this way when books come in that are A through M, I could just easily put them here, and then when the N through Z books come in, I could put them over there, rather than just continually shuffling books between the boxes. This is the easiest way to go about doing it. So having a strategy in place is definitely a good idea. Okay, so if you remember from the first haul video I did in part 1, I was saying if you have what's supposed to be a mini series or a set of books, don't get too worried if at first you don't see them all together. They're probably split up among the boxes. Like Mrs. Primetime just pulled these out. This is issue 2 issue 3 and issue 4. But the other night I remember there was another one around, and sure enough, I just went and looked, and we have issue number 1 in another area. So now we have a complete set, and you want to sell these as a set. These will sell for as high as $23, so not bad. You could see how the money just racks up if you know, you buy a good collection like this. So this is going to be a nice one to list, and we could list this pretty soon and just guaranteed sale. Okay, now one thing to be aware of is that besides your regular size comic book, which you could see here, this one that I just showed you, you'll note that behind it, there's one that's much bigger. These are called comic book magazines. So they are black and white generally. This one is the Punisher. They also made them for Conan, Savage Sword of Conan. Now, if you have the original issues of Savage Sword of Conan, which I actually have, downstairs, those are worth quite a bit of money. But you know, some of these individually are not worth much. Like this book right here, this is about a $10, $11 book, and you want to bag these in what's called magazine bagging boards, because they're not going to fit in your regular size comic bagging board. So they're out there, you just pick those up, have them on hand. And you know, if you could find a couple other Punisher related books, you could put it together with this and make a little lot of books so you could get a better price for a single sale. And no sooner do I say that than Mrs. Primetime pulls out the Punisher magazine number 4. So you see, now instead of me listing number 3, I'm going to list number 3 and number 4, and I've now increased value to the buyer, and that helps make the sale much faster. And for those of you who are brand new into comic books, if you ever see Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, which we found this one the other night, I believe I was telling you that that eventually turns into the Spectacular Spider-Man. So it's actually the same series. They just changed the name midway. These are the kind of things that happen with comic books that can make it really confusing with titles and stuff, but just wanted you to be aware of that. All right, so a few more things to show you. And just so you know, not every book that you find is going to be some big, huge score. You know, this here, this Betty and Veronica, you could just see how many of these they made. Like this is number 582. They made 1 billion of these things. So individually, these are not going to sell. You have to bundle them up with other like comics. So there's so many different titles. Bundle them up in groups of 10 or something like that and try and sell them that way. Or you just include them in a garage sale for $1 a piece or 50 cents and sell them in that way. So there's some of that kind of stuff in here. Now, if you ever see anything with the word infinity on it, you should pick it up, especially if you could find the whole mini series of them. There's Infinity War, Infinity Crusade. There's also Infinity Gauntlet. Infinity Gauntlet is the best one to find. But, you know, if you just find the single issues, especially if it's number 1, that will sell individually. Like this one will sell for as high as around 13 bucks. And this one, about $10 or $11 in great condition. It looks to be in great condition, and I've got multiple copies of it here. Now, what really cracked me up, because I used to have this back in the day, Freddy Krueger's Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, this is absolutely hilarious. Now, Daisy is on my shoulders right now as I'm talking about this, but this is pretty funny. This book right here, max value on it would be around $30. If we turn up part 1, those two would sell together for about $65. So just like I showed you with the Punisher, and just like I showed you with the other book, the Conan one, and there's Daisy right there. You know, she's always running around the comic books. We always have to push her away so she doesn't cause any damage. But this one, you know, is just like the others in terms of, you know, black and white, but really, really cool book. I remember having this one here from 1989. You know, this is when a lot of these comic book magazines came out. And so you can see here what I'm talking about. Daisy just loves to walk amongst all the comics. So I gotta always push her back. So anyway, and just the other thing I wanted to show you here is this is what's called an annual. So they would come out once a year, and they're 64-page books. They used to cost a little bit more, but I used to love getting these. So you could see this one here. They cost $1.25. So the regular 32-page issues would cost 75 cents. But for an extra 50 cents, you know, I used to love it when I was a kid, just picking these up, because it's just so, you double your reading for another 50 cents. I love it. And so they're thicker. I love selling the annuals. If you get a bunch of annuals together, like successive years, that's another good way to bundle them and sell them. Sometimes you could sell them individually depending on what year it comes from. So, all right, I've got to go tend to Daisy because she's causing all sorts of trouble over there. I love when Daisy watches television. Yes, that's right. I like when you watch TV. All right, so just wanted to show you something else with regards to comic book titles. Now, I love the Punisher. He's one of my favorite characters. But these old Punisher books here, just these random ones, they're not worth a lot in isolation. Again, you'd have to bundle them together to get value out of them. But the thing I want to point out here are the titles. Like you can see here, this one's just called The Punisher, but they really started to branch out into different titles. Now, this is actually not a separate title of a comic book. This is just a storyline called The Final Days. But they had separate titled books, which you'll see over here in just a moment. Like they had The Punisher 2099. And you'll know that that's the name of the actual book because that name would run throughout the entire series. Unlike that other one I showed that said Punisher Final Days, which is just on the last few books. Then they had the Punisher War Zone. They had the Punisher War Journal. I mean, then there's the Punisher magazine that I showed you before. So you have to be able to be aware of that, especially when you're looking these up and checking the comps, is you have to make sure you're checking the right title. So there's lots of different titles sometimes for different characters. All right, so I want to point something out here again that has to do with comic titles because this throws people who are new off all of the time. So this is Wolverine. It's very obvious that it's Wolverine because that's all it says is the title. But this one here, a lot of people will also think is Wolverine, but it's not. The actual title for this comic book series is Marvel Comics Presents. And in this particular issue, they happen to cover Wolverine, but in other issues, they cover other comic book characters. Mrs. Primetime is laughing at me, or looking at me actually, not laughing at me, because I was just telling her about this when she was sorting through them. But anyway, the way you could tell is you just go right here, you look inside, and either on this page or usually right here, it will tell you the title of the book. So there you can see Marvel Comics Presents versus this one here. Open it up and let's see, where is it? Right here, we've got Wolverine. So that's how you find it. Okay, so this is Alf. Some of you may crack up at that, seeing Alf in a comic book, for those of you who remember him. But Alf is really not worth anything, even though it is a 25th silver anniversary issue. It's pretty much worthless. You'd have to have a bunch of other Alf comic books. It's just because there's just no one these days who's really currently going back looking for these types of things. Now, on the other hand, if you have Amazing Spider-Man that's done by Todd McFarlane, like this one, you can see there, Todd McFarlane, issue 328. This is a good one for a few reasons. Not only is Todd McFarlane, it's in great condition. In addition, you could see here that the box that's on the top left is knocked over to the side. There are people that collect issues in which that happens. So that's something to market as well in the description section. This book here, max value is $25. However, I could actually possibly market and get more of it out of it because it has a UPC code on the bottom. And that means that it is a newsstand version as opposed to a direct version. And I would have to explain that in a different comic book video because it's too complicated to get over here. But the bottom line is there's fewer of these around with the UPC code that are actually in great condition, like this one. So that makes it more collectible for people. So, and there's multiples of these here. So, there's 3. So potentially you could get around possibly as much as $75 for these 3 books sold separately over time. So that's max. It might go for less than that, but and we'll see. Maybe I could even get a little bit more instead of 25, maybe a little bit more marketing that has this UPC code on it. So we'll see. All right, well, do you remember the other night when I showed you this Reagan's Raiders and I told you it's kind of funny, kind of a gimmicky comic book, but not worth anything in and of itself? You'd have to have all of them. Now, there were 3 of them that were made. The other night after I talked to you about this, I did find issue number 2, which you could see right here. There's issue number 2 of Reagan's Raiders. And we just turned up issue number 3. So now that we have all 3, these are now worth a maximum of $25 for these. So, you know, we'll see what happens. They'll definitely sell. I'm not sure if they'll sell for as much as 25, but, you know, as opposed to just having this one, now having all 3, much better situation. Okay, I'm just pointing this out to you because this is a character you need to know. It's Morbius. Morbius has a fan following, has like a cult following. So even if you don't have like the complete set and you just have a bunch of mixed Morbius books, they'll still sell. So here we have Morbius Revisited 1 and number 3 and number 4. Unfortunately, I don't see number 2 around. Now, I did cheat a little bit. I went over to the white bin back there and was looking for it. I didn't see it in there quite yet, so I'm not sure if we have it. But while I was in there, I saw a couple other things, like this Legends of Zelda book from 1991. Now, it's got damage to it, so it's probably not worth much. But one of the things I saw over there, I was like, oh my God, I have to pull these out. This Luke Cage Hero for Hire. These old Luke Cage books are very desirable, and there's a lot of them here. I mean, we have number 9, we have number 10, we have number 11. There's just a lot of them here. We've got 12, so it's great. You're looking for that kind of consecutive run. 13. I mean, look at these covers. And as you can see here, Luke Cage, which is this character here, he's African-American. And this was something that Marvel was pioneering back in the day, and that they were making African-American characters that were superhero characters. And this was just one of the types of, many types of progressive things that Marvel was doing back in the day to reach out to their readers. And so this is a very, very collectible, and especially having all of these like this, I mean, this is a nice score like this. I mean, this is gonna really be a nice sale putting all of these together. I'm not quite sure exactly what the value will be once we lot these all together, because it's, you know, this is gonna be a difficult thing to exactly comp. So, you know, but I'll figure it out, and I will, you know, update you if you just ask me later on down the road, or it may show up in one of my what sold videos, or I might put it up sometime soon. We'll see. A lot more to go through. Well, we found a 4th one of these, so that's good. We'll put this one to the side. And this is a cool issue right here. This is the Wolverine Crucifixion issue on X-Men 251 right there. Now, this is why you need to have comic books in bags, because someone had spilt soda all over this or some kind of sticky substance, and you could see all of that would have went onto the comic book. But fortunately, this stuff is just all on the bag, because we're going to just take it out of the bag here, and you'll see that, let's get this out of the way because this is gross and sticky. But that did help preserve the book so that at least it is, you know, not having all sorts of brown stains all over it. Now, in near mint condition, this book could go for as high as $23, but it does have some bends and some little creases and stuff that's going to take the value down. But I really just wanted to show you more about why you have to have these in bags and boards, because it really, you know, protects them. Okay, folks, this is a little comic book history lesson here. Spider-Man first appeared in Amazing Fantasy 15. Now, if this was truly Amazing Fantasy 15, I would have something that is worth a lot of money on my hands. You know, tens of thousands of dollars at least. But unfortunately, it's not. It's a reprint. Again, you see that black margin around it. And also, you just look inside and you see these super bright colors. And you could see here, published in 2001. So this is not the original, but I see people get tricked at this sometimes, and they'll grab something like this at a flea market and they'll say, look, 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 I found the first issue ever of Spider-Man. And then I have to break the news to them that they didn't. So, you know, just keep that in mind when you find things like this. The chances that you're going to find an actual Amazing Fantasy 15 is very, very low. They're out there, but it is low. Okay, one of the things I wanted to tell you about when you're processing these collections is that one of the goals you should have is to get off any bags that are sticky or damaged in some way. You don't want those on there, so pull them off. You know, you could see this is just a little fraction of some of the bags we wound up pulling off here tonight. I mean, they're just gross, so you don't want them still on there, and you just replace them with some nice fresh bags and boards. This drives me crazy when I see this. When people put an actual price sticker onto the comic book, it makes the comic book worthless, especially if it's a more modern book like this. So, you know, this one's just going to be tossed aside. Now, don't get me wrong. If someone put a price sticker on, you know, Detective Comics 27, which is the first appearance of Batman, it still would be worth something. But for the most part, especially when you're doing this with modern books, you pretty much make the book worthless. Got a little Black Panther here, so I figured some people would like to see that. Now, I only see issue 1. I'm not sure if the other issues are over there. If not, I'd still hold on to it. You could try to sell it individually because someone else might have 2, 3, and 4, but I would most likely hold on to it and then wait until I find issues 2, 3, or 4, combine it, and then make a sale that way. All right, folks, it is midnight, and that means it is time to wrap up because I have other aspects of the business that I need to tend to, including orders, and I need to also get some listings up. So as you can see here, though, we've filled up about 2 boxes. I'm going to have to go and look for or get some more comic boxes tomorrow to sort the rest of this stuff. The blue bin is empty there. But we're going to have to do a 3rd video if you like it. So please give me feedback if you want a 3rd, in which I would go over what else is in that clear tub over there and some of these other ones today from the blue bin that I wasn't able to get to. And I know there's some good stuff back there because that's where I found that Luke Cage, and Mrs. Primetime doesn't know every single title in there that's valuable. So I'll have to go through those myself. And that could be the next video. It's up to you if you want that. All right, so if you liked what you see, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see everyone at the next video. Thanks, everyone. Take care.